Hi, my name is Dan Zeilinger, and I have been a world-traveling full-time trad jazz musician for the past 40 years. Some of my most memorable performances were on the lawn of the Edinburgh Castle, at Imperial Palace in Japan, as well as TV shows and commercials across the world. I've met many people during my career and have spent many hours on stage and off with these musicians, talking about jazz, life, and more. Some are touring musicians, some are theme park warriors, and some are casual musicians who play on the weekends with friends. I think they all have stories worthy of a movie script, and through these interviews, I'll be sharing them with you. Hi there, this is Dan Zeilinger with Trad Jazz Today, and my guest is longtime trombonist, tubist, brass expert, former member of the High Sierra Jazz Band, did a little bit of time with Don Neely and the Royal Jazz Society Orchestra, and all kinds of things. One of the favorite all-stars in the festival circuit, my buddy and fellow tuba player, Mr. Howard Miyata. Howard.
Hey there, Dan.
You like that intro? Pretty accurate?
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you.
If there's anything I left out, let me know, because I'm all about giving cred. You know,
maybe mentioned our time with Canstels. I'm also recently, as of January, I'm now a Wessex endorsing artist.
I know, and we're going to get into that because I have some serious questions to ask you about that, of course.
Way cool.
Maybe not serious, but at least some questions. Now, I do research on everybody that I interview. Have you seen any of my interviews this far?
Yes, I have. I love them.
Oh, well, good. Thank you. I wasn't looking for a compliment, but I was just wondering if you understood the format. You know, some people think it's going to be a real serious question answer type of thing, and I really want it to be conversational and to give people an idea of the personalities involved and what the life of a musician's like. You know. Now, we come out of similar backgrounds in that we both have teaching backgrounds.
That's right.
And you were the teacher in Gilroy for quite a while, correct?
Well, I started out doing 8 years in San Juan Bautista, and then the rest of my tenure ended up then 5 years at Morgan Hill Unified, and then the rest of my tenure here in Gilroy.
So were you born in Gilroy?
I was born in San Jose, but I grew up in San Martin, which is in between Morgan Hill and Gilroy.
I was just curious because I like I said, I do research on everybody, and I couldn't get a definite place of your birth. Although I do know you were born in '65, which makes you, weren't you?
Actually, 56.
56. Oh, I look at that.
Some would say I was hatched.
Like a bad plot. No. 56. So you are 2 years younger than I.
Well, how about that?
I know. Who would have guessed? I seem like such an old man sometimes. And yeah, I know where Morgan Hill is, of course, because I used to rehearse there with Ed.
That's right.
Zimbrick, and I've been up and down PCH and the 99 too many times.
Oh yeah.
Because
I taught Ed's grandkids when they were in 5th and 6th grade.
Really, are they musical?
Oh, very, very.
I didn't know.
Mrs. Z is just a delightful lady.
Well, that's great. Yeah, of course, I miss Ed. He was a big factor in my career. Obviously. Oh yeah. And I guess a big factor in a lot of people's career in the Bay Area there back in the day. So you went to Live Oak High School?
Yes, I did. Hey,
I told you I did my research.
Hey.
When did you actually start music? Were you in elementary school?
Yeah, that was in elementary school. Back in those days, they started us in 4th grade over at San Martin Gwynn School, and I'll never forget it. You know, my folks. Wanted me to check in with the school band. Of course, like all young kids, I wanted to play trumpet like everybody else. And they, well, you know, we really need some more people to the low brass. And my mother's had the idea, hey, give me about another week and I could get your cousin Preston's trombone, and maybe we could start you on that. And meanwhile, yeah, I went to all the meetings that they have for fifth graders and fourth graders, and on the way to getting a loaner trombone. In the meantime, we passed this gorgeous looking tuba sitting on these wire type tuba stands, and it caught my eye, and I couldn't stop looking at it. It was a wonderful instrument, and just for kicks, is hey, try buzzing your lips in the mouthpiece, and
Sure.
that's what. And this big, huge sound came out. Coming from this little squirt kid. I thought, oh gosh, gee, I wonder if I could take one of these home. Unfortunately, at that. And by the way, I'm going to tell you something my parents don't even know. Okay.
Oh.
This actually happened. At that moment, we had one of our famous California earthquakes at that instant, and the tuba started rocking back, and it fell over backwards on me. And
no.
Looking down from above, you would see this big F.E. Olds tuba and these tiny little sneakers underneath. That was me.
Like the Bad Witch of the West.
Yeah, kind of like that. And so they kind of made the decision, well, you've got a lot of potential on tuba. Let's start you on something a little bit safer like trombone, like your mom wanted.
Now, are your parents musical?
My mother played a little bit of violin, but she never played it in the house. I don't know. She thought it would scare the animals. Because we were all into 4-H back in the old days.
My father was actually a sousaphone player in the University of Nebraska, but that wasn't. Wow. But that wasn't why I started. I started because I was an asthmatic, a terrible asthmatic, and my doctor suggested it. And that's true of a lot of us. I guess Dan Coleman's had the same experience.
It's the best thing for you. Yeah.
Well, now look at me. I'm no longer a scrawny, no-lunged kid. I'm now a scrawny old man. No. But it's really wonderful. So you actually started out on trombone. That's pretty rare, actually.
Yeah, and that love affair with the tuba always got rekindled at the drop of a hat. As soon as I reached high school, it was one of the first secondary instruments I grabbed for, and it's been a love affair with the instrument ever since.
Yeah, it's interesting, and one of the things I talk about on this show is how tuba players very seldom get a chance to really get to know each other because of the fact that we're always in opposing bands or fighting with the same work. I happen to play with several great tuba players because I was on another instrument, or they were.
Yeah.
I met Charlie Warren because we were both went to junior college together. And of course, Charlie Westy was playing trombone with Miss Behaven. Oh. And so we became great friends, which I never would have done if we were just both playing tuba on a band.
Yeah. Oh gosh, Westy, he was another one of them. Talk about great influences. He's been a subject on almost every interview I've done. His name comes up, and not always by me either, but just such a loss to the community, both as a player and as a personality. Yeah. Hey, can I tell you something that I'm totally indebted to Lee Westenhofer for?
Sure, please do.
Everybody knows what a wonderful entertainer he is, what a stellar talent on tuba, and playing interesting sounds with his hands, the bilabial frenulation, wonderful things. But among all that, to me, I sort of look at him like Yoda. He was the wise one. He would end up teaching more than you ever thought you would ever get from a lesson. And one thing, the big thing that I took away from Westy was, nice guys don't have to finish last. And wow.
You really are a manifestation of that thought, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
It's interesting because I was actually the original tuba teacher at the Mammoth Lakes Jazz Camp, the original bass teacher. Wow. Yeah, and then when I got whisked away by Ed Zimbrick, I talked Westy into taking that job, and he really wasn't teaching at the time. And he said to me, nobody really, I only want to teach if people want to learn what I have to tell, which is kind of an interesting look at it, and little did he know that that's exactly what people needed, was not only the technical aspect of being a tuba player in incredible euphonium player. That's actually
Yeah,
his. It's actually his main instrument. His dad was a renowned euphonium player,
yeah, yeah.
and so and then he found out that everybody wanted to hear what he had to say and what he had to teach.
Great.
You know, and yeah, I learned so much from him too. It's interesting, like you, and I've acquired these really good friends who I'm actually kind of fighting for the same work for at times. Not really. I mean, honestly, we have our niches, but it's nice to know because you, like Wesley, are one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Oh, well, gee,
Of
thank
course,
you.
Katie fits in there somewhere too.
Yes, she does. I talked about another joy, to play next to. That would be Katie Cavera.
I found out early on in my life that the people that are really the best at their craft are people that don't have to prove themselves.
Isn't that true? I would agree with that. One thing that is a hallmark of a great musician, and I think Katie falls into this, and so does Westy. They create a synergy. They don't have to brag about what they've done or show off, but in their basic goodness of what they do, their skills, the way they listen, the way they perform with you. It creates a synergy, which is something much bigger than the sum of its 2 parts or 3 parts or whatever you have together. Anytime Katie Cavera comes on the bands, and I know we're going to have a great time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. So I always have a big grin on my face anytime I get a chance to perform with Katie Cavera.
Well, as a tuba player, you know that it makes it so easy.
Oh, yeah.
To have somebody with her kind of relentless time.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden that part of the responsibility is taken off of your shoulders as a bass player. And it becomes just a joyride,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. She musically kind of takes you by the hand and say, hey, let's go this way. We'll see what happens, and it's an absolute joyride. It really is, musically speaking.
Now, I see you got your BA at San Jose State.
Yes.
That's a kind of that's a real marching band drum corps epicenter.
It sure is.
In Northern California. And as you know, I'm a drum corps guy too. And I know you're a big fan, which I was happy to hear.
Absolutely. Yes. Started back in 72, 73, Santa Clara Vanguard. And
I was marching Velvet Knights then.
Oh, my favorite corps. I love the Velvet Knights. They're always thinking out of the box. It's the perfect example of continual creativity going on in drum corps. They refuse to be typecast as those loud, angry chords that you hear all the time with most drum corps. These guys went out to entertain the crowd.
Exactly.
And a standing ovation after standing ovation. That was, to me, that was worth more than any score on a judge's sheet.
Well, it actually applies much more to growing into professional than perhaps Santa Clara Vanguard or the Blue Devils or the Cavaliers or one of those corps that are all about winning. Whereas Velvet Knights were about entertaining.
Yeah, and boy, talk about something you could take with you into your professional career as a musician. Wow, because if you could do it at a long distance like that, imagine what you do with an intimate crowd.
So did you ever dip your toe into that pool? Did you go to any rehearsals?
Drum corps?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
maybe San Jose Raiders or one of those?
So tempting. But, with my tenure with High Sierra, it didn't allow me the time to invest in something like that. But, there's always a part of me that wanted to do that and to watch everything evolve. And the core scene is so exciting. It's kind of barren right now because,
my son, who's been in touch with you, he's doing the scheduling and kind of the producing for this show. My son is now the director of it at Impulse.
Impulse! Yes!
So my son's the director of that organization now.
By the way, I love the uniforms of Impulse.
That was actually my younger brother's design, but that's okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, I was one of the founding members of that corps.
Yeah, I tell you, it was a great testing ground for the guys at Canstles, because they really were the father of marching equipment and the corps style instruments, and of course the bugles themselves.
Well,
Evolved.
Zig was my marching instructor.
Oh man,
He was the marching instructor of the Velvet Knights. That's how come I knew Zig canceled so early. I knew him when he was at Olds. At FE
oh
Olds.
yeah, the ultratones.
And I got to tell you, I was telling my son this today on my way up at his house, that it really annoyed me that Zig would use you and Dave Wright as test beds, and I lived basically a mile away from the factory. But Zig only knew me as a trumpet player because I played soprano.
Did.
I was a soprano when I played in the corps.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
Well, why is he getting these guys from San Jose when anyway?
Well, I'm happy to say that I was just one of many that came in to bring their input over at the factory. And you never know who would show up, to try out a horn or a prototype. And I would learn a lot from that too. Guys like John Van Houten or Beth Schoenard Mitchell.
It may surprise you. It may surprise you that John's coming on this channel.
Is he?
And that's because he and I met on a water style band in Fullerton.
I'll be dead.
When I was playing cornet and he was playing tuba.
Oh gosh, I would love to hear him play tuba in a water situation.
Everybody says that,
I don't know if you had a chance to meet Beth Mitchell yet. She's a little squirt now. She'll probably kick me if she hears me say that. But don't let that fool you. She is one monster.
Oh yeah, she and I have crossed paths quite often, but we haven't really gotten to know each other.
She's a real interesting personality to get to know. I got to test play her horn before she got it in her hands. but let me tell you, she's got a good head on her shoulders, and musically speaking, boy, the lucky person who gets to take lessons from Beth.
Oh yeah. Well, see, I used to be the tuba tech at Kennedy High School in La Palma. For a long time, and when I left there, Beth took my place. And when she left there, Joe Jackson went in. No, Joe Jackson's coming on the channel too, because I actually met him because he was a fan of Westies, and I used to sub for Westie with Conrad Janis and the Beverly Hills Unlisted.
Whoa!
And one night Joe was in the audience, and we started talking, and he ended up marrying my son, because he's a preacher also.
Oh my goodness!
So a small world down here,
That is exciting. Wow.
But that whole group is great players. I mean, I know Beth. She actually took over for a few of my tuba students that I had. One naming a guy named Nick Masoto, who went on to march Blue Devils. But anyway, I haven't really had a chance to meet her or hang out with her. We've kind of, like I said, we've kind of crossed paths, and I played duets with you and John at the NAM, and she would be the other corners with a horn or whatever.
Yeah.
But cancel, wow! Like all of us, of course, I interviewed Flip earlier,
and
we were all just shocked. I couldn't believe that Mark or Jack or Ziggy didn't want to step in and take over the reins.
They did a very noble attempt at it. After Zig's passing, we were all kind of in shock because it happened so quickly.
And he was just a force of nature.
Yeah. Oh, he was. Zig was never content to sit down at a desk and let everybody else, do the work that he would order around. He would always be in his overalls, bending bells with the rest of them, or soldering a valve section. He always kept active. As a matter of fact, all the way to the end. I don't know if many people know this or not about Zig. When he passed, they found him. He has this little apartment that's right connected to the factory, and so he would constantly be, doing some handwork on an instrument. I think he was working on a French horn or something. And when they found him, he had the instrument in his hands, and the tools nearby. And he was just kind of.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, all the way to he was the craftsman to the very, very end.
A Zig story you may enjoy. When I was with the Corps, we were at a parade somewhere, and one of the kids slipped and fell on his French horn bugle, and just
I remember
collapsed the bell.
Oh,
And Zig came by and picked up the horn, and he fixed it back out. He found a concrete parking post, and he brought the bell back. He just sat there and worked the bell, and I had no idea that he had any of that. And it didn't look new, but it was definitely playable and looked like a French horn again.
yeah, he has that ability, certainly.
But he was a lot of fun. When I knew Zig, of course, I marched between Ziggy and Jack in the Velvet Knights, and Zig Cancel used to use me for experiments. He'd have a new bell design, or he'd have something he wanted to try out, and for a while I had a Matt set of 4 Olds Customs in the Olds Customs case that he wanted me to take around and show people. And
wow,
so
those are legendary, those instruments.
Before I'm sorry to take up their time about my own reminiscing here, but one thing, I met him, I saw him again 20 years later, and my son was actually a trumpeter from medieval times, and they were using cancel horns, and so he wanted to take them to the factory, have them repaired, and I went with him, and we walked in the front door, and Zig said, "Dan Zeilinger, I always thought you wouldn't amount to be anything." With my son standing there, of course.
Oh, mercy.
And then we had told him about, we were starting up Impulse and things. And he said, "Dan, drum corps will break your heart, and then it'll break your wallet."
Yeah.
Anyway, that was Zig. So yeah, I see that you're now repping for Wessex.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering how come BAC didn't grab you up.
Well, they already have 2 or 3 really fine trombonists who are working there at the factory. They probably wouldn't.
I just figured since they took Charles that you would be on the list of.
Well, it could have happened. It could have happened. But who knows? The future is wide open. Right now I'm with Wessex, and I'm really happy with them. They've been so good to me so far. And who knows, maybe I might get involved in the design front again one more time. We'll see. Yeah,
I know that you're, I know, of course, like all of us, you came up through the school system and classically trained. When did jazz grab you?
Oh, I tell you, I was a late bloomer, like maybe my senior year in high school. How all the high schools have like a stage band program or some sort of a big band format. And I tried it and said, "Oh, what are these funny symbols here? Oh, those are chord changes. Oh, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to solo. Oh, really? Okay, let me try it." And and I got my feet wet. I think it was what was it? It was a Buddy Rich chart we were playing or something, or a Woody Herman chart, and we played it, and hey, didn't sound half bad for your first try. And I was like, hey, this has possibilities. And so I started checking out the roots, fifths, and thirds, and that's what at high school level, and say, wow, this is great. You can make up your own stuff. It's because I had kind of that penchant anyway. Even in symphonic literature, I had a penchant for kind of playing something that wasn't written. And no, stick to the ink. And so this was liberating for me.
So you've always had an ear for it. You heard things that you wanted to play.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not common. For example, this one will blow you away. I had a phone call yesterday from Charlie Grow.
Oh.
And he told me that he wants to learn Dixieland.
Whoa.
So I thought that would be a tickle to you.
That is a tickle. It's very similar to what I had gone through a couple months ago. I was giving, I don't know if you know Tony Clements or not. He was the principal tuba player at San Jose Symphony and the San Jose Ballet Orchestra. He's one of the big gurus in the Bay Area for classic tuba training. And I got to give him jazz improv lessons on tuba.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting when you take somebody who's that far along in their career, and all of a sudden you've got to break this, what we do, down. Because
Yeah.
I didn't learn that way. I got thrown into the deep end, with both hands tied,
Yes.
you know.
I think a lot of us learn that way.
Seriously, you get on stage and all of a sudden they say, "Oh, don't worry, you'll hear it." And you're going,
Yeah.
"What are you talking about?"
Get
I'll
that deer
hear
in the
it.
headlights look, right?
Now, when did you start? When you play, and when I hear you at festivals, and I've heard you at festivals for a very long time, you are so rooted in trad playing. Uh, so when did that come to you? I mean, when did you start hearing the Turk Murphy stuff and those
Oh,
things?
you know what really helped is when I first started out playing jazz, I was with the Royal Society Jazz Orchestra.
By the
And
way, I'm interviewing Don right after you.
oh, cool. Say hello to Don for me,
I
please.
will.
Yeah. We did tea dancing at Earthquake Lagoons every Friday for about, what, 2 years, maybe 3 years, because tea dancing was such a big craze between the hours of 4 and 6 o'clock. And so what we would do, we do tea dancing at the club, and then we'd stay around and watch Turk open up. As of course, Scott Anthony would do the pre-show, and so we got to get to know everybody, and that's how I got to get to know Turk. Uh, uh, but the real turning point was when we did the St. Louis Ragtime Festival. The Murphy Band and the RSJO were invited to that. And this was the mother of all jazz festivals. It went from Saturday to Saturday. It went all the way during the week. And it started like 6 p.m. roughly at night till the wee hours. And we had many a day where we'd be walking back to our hotel room and watching the sunrise. And, those were the days. So that, I got a whole lot of close-up of Turk Murphy. And as a young kid, I'll always cherish that time. We were sitting in the back of the Goldenrod showboat underneath the arch of St. Louis and overlooking the Mississippi. And Turk would and I would get in the comment, how do you do this? And what do you do on Pecan Pete? How do you play that so fast? And and he would look at me, put his arm around me and say, well, kid, here's the way it's done.
Yeah, well, I never met the man.
Oh, amazing man.
Yeah, approachable, I guess, huh?
Yeah. He had very complicated personality, and like most geniuses you meet, first impressions might be that they might be kind of curmudgeon-y, but when you get to know them, Turk was very, very generous with his time. I know he could be a taskmaster with all the guys who were working with him, but he always treated me well. He said, hey, this is a young little sprout coming up, and then he did everything to kind of nurture that, and to get that Turk Murphy attack and how to do it without hurting yourself. That's the real key to playing like Turk.
Now, was Jim with the band then? Was Jim Mayhack with the band at that time?
Let me think. Yes. Let's see. Bill Carroll was on tuba. Mayhack would do some subbing for Pete Clute every once in a while when Pete couldn't make it. So that I got to meet him too. Bill Carroll, what a delightful personality to get to meet. He would late at night. Here's what he would do. He would have one of those little Walkman tape recorders, and he would pretend to be a famous reporter on the beat, and he would interview the most beautiful women he'd ever get to meet. Hello, this is Ebbets Field here on the scene in the St. Louis Ragtime Festival. What do you think about the sound of Turk Murphy? And then and he would get to talk to these really gorgeous women.
Wow, I never thought of that myself. I got to take some notes here.
Yeah, he would be. This is Wrigley Fields here. You just name any name of the stadium.
That's great.
Someday I'll get my hands on those tapes.
Yeah, no, I swear, and I know I've mentioned it to you several times. I swear that I must have seen you when you were with RSJO.
Yes.
And I've always enjoyed that band. I actually had a chance to play a set with them. I think it was in Santa Rosa.
Yes.
That for some reason they needed a bass player, and I hadn't brought my string bass, and so I was doing the whole thing on tuba, and that was interesting. I got to meet Frederick and the guys, and that's a whole nother experience with that band.
Sure is. It's kind of living the evolution of jazz, you know, as the years went on, because they expanded their repertoire a little more modern to the 30s and then even to early 40s eventually. Great. So, and what blew my mind was when we went to Edinburgh, Scotland, we ran into you guys at the Southern Comfort Jazz Band.
I got to tell you, my wife was pregnant with my son, the one who's been talking to us then, and we were halfway down the street, and I hear this band, and I walk into the hotel and open the main hotel rooms, and it's loud. That's by far the loudest jazz band I'd ever heard in my life. And you guys were on stage. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I went there twice. Once with the first time with Royal Society Jazz Orchestra, and the second time was with High Sierra later on. So that was neat. Both Edinburgh and what was the other? Breda, Holland.
Yeah, I'd never done Breda, but
that's a fun.
Yeah. Well, I loved Edinburgh. It's funny that year. My wife got to go see the Tattoo at the Castle, the military band Tattoo, and we had a gig that night, so I didn't get to go.
Oh man, to see that.
But what can I say? You know, the good times, and that's just that's probably one of my favorite cities in the world.
Yes.
For at least how it looks. If you want to think of the fairy tale castles of your storybooks, when they had the castle lit up at night, and you're down on the main drag there.
They were supposed to have a bear as a mascot inside the castle.
Really?
Yeah, and they would. It was like a big pet, and I learned from, we were staying in a little bed and breakfast place there in Scotland, and in the basement was a bar, and the proprietor wore kilts and spoke in a very heavy brogue. Hey, come on, you come have a seat. And
that's not bad.
He was trying to tell me about what was going on in the castle. Yeah, but they said the birthday for the bear and the burger, they get a big piece of cake, and then he's got a bigger, and they get a vacuum loop. And what did that mean? Well, it simply meant that they were celebrating the bear's birthday. They brought him a big birthday cake, and of course the bear makes a big mess, and they had to vacuum it all up. And he says, well, at first I couldn't understand what he was saying. He said, I'm sorry, first time I've ever heard a real Scottish brogue. Brogue, man, that's a shoe.
Oh, yeah. And then the further north you get, the thicker the brogue gets.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. How did High Sierra happen?
High Sierra, oh gosh. Let me tell you, I think you can appreciate it, because I knew you're kind of an alumni of the Frogs too. And I think you were just after me. I think it was originally Walt Greenwald, and then
Dan Marcus.
Dan Marcus, and there was a third one. He played with Allred. What's his name? Jay Mueller, I think.
Yes, Jay Mueller.
And I followed Jay, the very young Jay Mueller, and so
then they went through Dave Wright also.
Yes, and I remember Dave being with them. I think, was he the last tuba player they had?
I'm the guy who killed the band.
Oh,
because I was doing both Hot Frogs and 10th Avenue at the same time.
Oh wow!
In fact, I had a couple festivals. I had to go back to back.
Wow!
And when Mike Silverman was feeling ill, having these problems, I actually played cornet for a while with the Frogs and tuba with 10th Avenue back to back.
Woo! Ooh,
so,
what a drastic shift back and forth.
Yeah. My face was never the same.
Yeah. I did. My career was very short with the Frogs. It was 3 festivals. It was Los Angeles, and it was Oregon, where they had the big Shakespeare festival out there, and then San Mateo. Now this is where it ties into High Sierra, because before that third festival in San Mateo happened, Joe Ashworth got a phone call from Al Smith.
Okay, who just recently passed.
Yeah, by the way,
Unfortunately.
rest in peace, Al Smith. What a great guy. Well, anyway, going on with the story, Al had called Joe and told him that Vic was retiring from the band, and they really wanted me to play trombone with High C. I wish I was a fly on the wall to hear the conversation, because Joe had just hired me to be their tuba player with the Frogs. And at the end of the conversation, which I'm not privy to, the next day I get a phone call from Joe. He says, Howard, I'm afraid we're going to have to let you go. I thought, oh God, I got fired already. And he said, no, it's not that. It's just that there's another band that probably needs you more than we do. And he kind of left it at that.
Huh.
And I thought, oh, okay, who could that be? And then so as I hung up, about 15 minutes later, I got a call from Al Smith.
Boy, those are both pedal to the metal bands.
Oh, I tell you, both really aggressive bands. You know, you could get by as a tuba player in an aggressive band pretty easy, compared to, say, something like trombone, which can be painful. You know, when you're playing with an aggressive group. I felt like a dog on a leash tied to a motorcycle. That's what it felt like. You know, I had the audacity to think, because I was a young squirt in the band, maybe I might have some sort of an advantage.
Oh no.
No, those guys played like there was no tomorrow. The toughest thing with High Sierra was trying to figure out what the real out chorus was. You know, because most bands will do a soft out chorus and a loud one. That's the end, right? With High Sierra, Al would be reading the audience reaction, and it'd be like a real hungry shark going for his favorite food, the audience, and so it'd be out chorus after out chorus, bigger, faster, louder. And there were times where we actually did almost 8 out choruses.
Oh my.
Al would play until his lips would bleed. And we'd be trading ones at the very end. Our lips are being torn to shreds by that 8th chorus, going up playing so aggressively.
But it showed with the audiences. You guys were the closest thing you want to get to a rock band in the festival circuit, as far as the sizes of the crowds were concerned. I mean, both the Frogs and the High Sierra were just crazily popular.
Yeah, Al's drug of choice was audience respond. You know, he craved for those standing ovations, and I guess we did too. He very, very competitive. He viewed jazz as more of a competitive sport, I think, and so we kind of got the reputation of being a blood and guts Dixieland band.
It must have been a huge culture shock when you ended up with Brian.
It was, but you know, I thank my lucky stars he joined the band. Talk about an instant transformation within the course of about a month or so, and continued on for the rest. I think he was with us for 3 years, and then he left, and then he came back again. But you know, one thing I can say about Brian Shaw, you know, he comes off as an aggressive sort of personality, but you know, when I tally it all up, all the times he would tell us things to do and changes to make, he was right. Son of a gun, he was right.
Yeah.
And I give him credit for that.
He was the main reason that I knew anything about jazz when we were because we were in college together along with that Orange County group. He actually used to sit in a practice room with me and make me play through fake books and teach me how to phrase lines. And yeah, he's actually a very wonderful, giving guy.
Yeah, he is. He is. Whole family's wonderful. Oh, I remember staying overnight in the studios when we would record over at his place. And you know, it's fun. The kids would help me inflate the mattress, you know. Oh gosh, and so many wonderful times, you know. And Susan, his wife, is so wonderful.
And then, of course, you would end up going to Mark,
Yeah. Yeah.
who's another. He's actually kind of in between, stylistically in between Al and Brian. You know.
Yes, he is. Exactly. Exactly. He's that perfect balance. He has a wonderful Louis influence, and oh gosh, he every time he plays, I hear something different, and it's always something that really interesting to respond to. Oh man, what a joy! I could hardly wait to stand on the same stage next to Mark Caparone again.
So you guys, you put together kind of a group that was fulfilling contracts, that High Sierra still had, and I forgot what you called it.
Well, the continuation group was called the Sierra 7.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
And then that's now evolved into New Eldorado, hasn't it? Or that's a whole different thing?
Well, that was another project that Mark Caparone was in. He invited me in on that on their first album, and it's great researching the Eldorado band and the people involved, what they sounded like, and to try to emulate faithfully what they had done. And oh man, Al Crown was a great trombone player to listen to. And boy, he's got some great ideas, and getting something that really sounded like the original Eldorado jazz band.
Well, I mean, you're associated with a lot of pretty influential and powerful groups, not to mention your nephews.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Who are now I hate to say it any other way, but they're kind of the darlings of the Dixieland circuit nationally. They've become very popular.
Great kids. It was fun watching them all grow up. They listened to, they grew up listening to the RSJO and High Sierra, and I encourage them to listen to other bands as well, South Frisco and All Red. Let me tell you, if I could put in a plug for that Sacramento Jazz Camp,
please.
The most influential resource for the next crew of musicians coming up and coming, and a lot of them have pursued it as a career, and very successfully. And my nephew's being a good example of that. And hopefully, after this whole disease thing blows over, they could start going again. And they crank out, I'll guess, and say 500-600 students a year that come out knowing how to improvise, from at various levels, from beginning all the way up to almost being colleagues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, quite a few of them. I mean, you see people like Jason Warner and Bria Schoenberg that both came out of jazz camps.
Gosh, I remember Bria when she was in 7th grade. And,
Misbehaving was doing the Chilliwack Festival when she was 11. And I think, and Westy and the guys were all with us then.
Simon Stribling introduced me to Bria Schoenberg as a little kid. Says, Howard, you got to hear this youngster. She's got it. And tell me if she doesn't sound like Louis.
She's phenomenal.
Oh yeah, and son of a what a fantastic talent, and she's grown up and she's a colleague now. It puts a smile on my face to think about it.
But it only makes sense for. I was talking about tuba players. It only makes sense when kids are my tuba students. That I say, if you don't want to starve while you're waiting for the next tuba player to die in a symphony, you should really learn how to play Dixieland. It's a way for us to make money and to be involved with music. And literally, there's only one in a symphony. And don't you agree?
Oh, I agree. Oh, you should ask Dave Gannett that question when you interview him. He's got a great story. He
hasn't responded yet, but I'm trying.
Oh gosh,
I am getting Eli on though.
Oh, good. Another one of my favorite tuba players. Well, this is great. I definitely must subscribe to this series. It's going to be an exciting.
Goes for the rest of you out there too.
Yes.
I have a great. By the way, speaking of Sacramento Jazz Camp, I don't know if you saw it, but I did an interview with Bill Dendel,
Oh, yay, Bill.
And we're doing part two. The part one went for an hour and 17 minutes. And we're going to be doing a part two coming up because there's just so much to
Excellent.
say and so much to learn.
Oh, I owe a lot to Bill Dendel. You know, between the jazz camp and things I have personally learned from Bill. Delightful. And the wonderful thing about being a great teacher, you could tell they're a great teacher because you're learning something from them, even though you don't realize they're really teaching you.
Yeah, he tells a great story. He tells a great story about walking back to the cabins with a camper with one of the kids, and the kid looks up and says, "This really isn't about jazz, is it?" And Bill said,
Oh yeah, there's so many wonderful things that go with it. You know, the character building, the learning how to be a great human being, cooperating, collaborating. Trad Jazz is probably the best collaborative resource in real time. I wish other subjects in school were taught in that collaborative basis, the same way we do with jazz.
Sure.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Well, one of the reasons for this channel, hopefully, is as an archive and educational series for young kids who want to play this style. But I want them to understand the most important thing about getting a job, and that is being able to get along with your fellow musician.
Oh, yeah.
And the hang factor. Now, if there's one thing this channel really shows is the friendships that develop and how important it is that the collaborative aspect of it, not only musically, but personality-wise.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I've known many a band leader to, they first it says, okay, what are the skills this person has? And this guy's a great musician, but I don't dare hire him because he can't get along with this musician. And, it's,
as you know,
a good personality that makes
and I'm
you
sure
very
you have
hireable.
the same feeling at times. My favorite players that I would love to call my own band with don't get along.
Oh,
They're wonderful, incredible players, each one of them on their own instrument. But for quite a few of them, they spend so much time together in their youth, or it's like, I guess for lack of a better phrase, sorry, hun, but it's like an old married couple that
yes.
you spend so much time together that it just becomes difficult to you may love them, but it becomes difficult to like them at times.
Yes. Well, with the whole downtime that we're all going through nowadays, I wonder if that'll work as a giant reset button for all of this, because none of us are playing, and it's been such a long time since we, put the horns in the mouth and entertained real people. We miss that terribly.
Yeah, absolutely.
But after it's all over, that first jam set, boy, it's going to be a great jam set.
Let's talk about the Zinfandel Stompers.
Oh, let's do. It's a fun local group.
For one thing, it's a fun band name to say.
Oh, it is.
But
it is.
Let's tell me a little bit about it.
Okay, well, the leader is Mr. Jim O'Brien, who is also the director of the Pacific Brass. It's a British style brass band that I perform with, and but the Zinfandel Stompers is an interesting collaboration of old RSJO alumni. We all started out with Don Neely back in the old San Jose State days. So this is back in, it's like 1977, 78, somewhere around there. And we have Pat Dutro on banjo. We have Tom Brosine would come in and play with us. Let's see, Don Abel, who was not in the band, but he's one of the local cornet players. Myself on trombone. Rick Severson, who played with RSJO, is in the group. And the wonderful thing about this particular ensemble is that everybody at least doubles and mostly triples on various instruments. So we're like a volleyball team. You'll see us revolving, as chorus after chorus, going to different instruments. I double on percussion in that group. So I get to play percussion and then grab a trombone and put it back down and back up another solo with a valve trombone, or a euphonium. We get to bring all our toys at the gig, so it's never the same once.
Yeah, no, I don't think the general public understands that as educators, we have to have a working function of everything.
Absolutely.
Of instruments. And so things like you do with the Zinfandel Stompers, where you're going from drums to tuba to trombone to vocals, is something that band directors have to do all the time.
Absolutely. That's your working life as a band director. The finest band directors I have ever met are band directors that can play sufficient on every instrument that they teach, up to the level that they're teaching. For me, it was a middle school level. So one of the few things you'll ever see me with a flute or a clarinet or a saxophone. I could do it. I mostly read with those instruments, but I played them every day as a band director.
Sure.
And it that's what makes you a great teacher, if you have firsthand knowledge of those. As time has gone on, most band directors coming out of college might have a real quick introduction of basic instrument classes, but they primarily just major on one instrument and allow the book to teach the instrument. I don't know about that trend. I mean, if you've got a great fundraising system and you could hire people to assist you on the different, that's a good way to go.
Yeah.
But if the director, him or herself, can do that, it's a very powerful thing. It's a very immediate thing. It's wonderful because if you hear a mistake somewhere in a section, say, okay, that's an F sharp, 1 2 3 middle finger, and bingo, it's correct.
But just little things like how to adjust your reed, or
yes.
What's a better alternate position for that note. All those inside tracks that you really don't internalize until you play it.
Isn't that true?
How to get over the break on a clarinet type of thing.
Yes. I've had so much fun teaching that, because we have such a good time teaching. Because it is tough, but we kind of make light of it and show them not to stress out over going over the break. These little musicians' tricks you could use as we do as band directors. It's a lot of fun. I really miss that. Yeah,
it's a whole nother world. I unfortunately taught some instrumental music to third graders. I was teaching at St. Paul's Elementary here in Orange, and you can't get any or past fourth position for the trombone players, and the kids' fingers would fall into the tone holes on the clarinet. They're just too young to actually be doing it. And most of your time is spent trying to bribe them not to touch each other,
Yeah.
I really, people like you who did middle school, you guys are saints.
Oh,
I tried that age group, and all that testosterone and not knowing what to do with it was just too much for me to handle as a teacher. So high school was okay. I can do high school.
Yeah, they're mature enough to follow directions and all that. In middle school, we kind of teach them how to do that. And
so bless you guys.
Oh, thank you so much. It's always great collaborating with another high school band director, and being a support guy to the high school has been such a big joy for me. That's where you could really sink your teeth into the job, and it becomes a part of you. It really does.
Yep. Yeah. Unfortunately, either fortunately, unfortunately, actually, the first person that identified that I should be teaching was Bill Dendel. He and I spent a lot of time working together in San Diego, and I would spend the night at his house because I was working between both San Diego Wild Animal Park and the zoo at times, or SeaWorld. And I lived in Huntington Beach.
Oh, wow.
So I would stay at his house, and and he said to me one night, he goes, you really ought to be teaching. And he was kind of one of those inspirational moments,
Bill always did have a good eye for great potential teachers, let me tell you.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, listen, unfortunately, I think I spend way too much of our time talking about me. But God, I'm so glad you agreed to do this.
Oh, I tell you, I'm having the time of my life.
And I want to give you some time here because I have to start wrapping this up. Uh,
Okay.
to talk about anything you want to and
All right.
plug anything you want to.
Okay. That
So
sounds
this
good.
time is now all yours, and I'll try to shut up.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, like the thanks to the nice folks at Wessex Tubas, they've given me the opportunity to try a first of its kind instrument. Uh, Never before has there ever been a 6-quarter compensating valve instrument. Now, for those of you out there listening to us that don't know what that means, is that there are certain out of tune combinations on a 3-valve instrument. One and 3 is really tough. 1, 2, and 3 is really tough to get into. 2 and 3, and because they're sharp. In other words, they sound too high. And so what this instrument automatically does, it adds a loop of tubing every time you do these fingerings, so it becomes in tune automatically. So that if you look in the back of the instrument, you see all these extra tubes that seemingly go in nonsensical parts, but apparently it really does work well. Makes the instrument a little heavier, but it just makes it a whole lot easier to play. The British love them. And I use it, since I play in a British brass band, this is an authentic instrument to play. What they did, they made a hybrid instrument. This is really exciting. They copied the Chicago York tuba. It's a big 6-quarter. Only 2 were made, and they got there and they measured it from the inside out and made a really faithful duplicate of it. But they weren't content to do that. They improved upon it. They and this really large bugle of a body plus compensating valves presented a problem. It was so big, you couldn't use the traditional 4th valve where you reach all the way to the side to reach the 4th valve traditionally. And so what they did is they put a rotary valve in the middle of the horn underneath the 2nd valve slide, and that's your 4th valve. And what a delightful playing instrument it is. It's all done in the what they call the high grade facility. Let me tell you about this. When people look for branded Chinese instruments, there are several, and they mostly come from one factory, and that's the Jinbao factory in China. And they've had a reputation for doing mediocre work on some instruments and okay work on others. But what Wessex did, they invested, I don't know how many million, they created a 2nd floor of that factory. And they handpicked the craftspeople from Jinbao, and they are now supervised by the Brits for quality control. This is really exciting because they're there and they went to a principle of one person, one horn in the high grade facility. Usually in a factory, you have one guy assembling the valves, sure, one guy lead pipe, one guy bending the tubing. At this factory, one man, one horn. He's responsible, he or she is responsible for building that entire instrument. They have to sign off on it. And then it's played by a professional musician afterwards to make sure everything works well. Doesn't leave the factory until they get the okay from the Brits.
Wow. Now, are the Brits like from the Besson factory over there, or where do they find those people?
Well, Jonathan Hodgetts, who founded the company, is one of them. And an absolutely wonderful person I got to meet is Chuck Nichols. Chuck he came from the U.S. Army band stationed in Germany. And after his career with that, he started making his own tuba designs himself because he had his own mandrels and designed what he really liked to play. He met Jonathan Hodgetts and they visited him at his house and had a look at his prototypes. Said, this is what we need. We need something original. And so rather than just copying instruments, they started incorporating their original designs to improve those instruments. And they did a West Coast tour, and I got to meet Chuck Nichols himself, and we got to talk horns for a couple of hours. It was wonderful. The stuff you learned about the inner workings of how tubing is run, how to fix your sound, resonance, for how to make a one-piece seamless bell is an amazing thing. And the company has really come a long way. So when I received my horn, wow, usually there is a stereotype with large tubas that they're really hard to play, and
Especially in tune in the upper register, yes.
yes, and it's like trying to dance with a Mack truck.
Some of the cancel tubas felt that way to me. Some of the earlier ones.
Yeah, the bigger ones certainly did. I remember that. Yeah, the big 5/4 ones. Oh yeah. Man, they were big. But this one, due to the lead pipe dimensions on it, it's shockingly easy to play, and it's easy to make the horn sing in the upper register, that you would expect of a much smaller tuba. But we will deliver the big sound when you want it.
Well, I've got to tell you, Howard, this makes a lot more sense to me than when I first heard that you were going to represent for Wessex. Because like a lot of us tuba players, we know the quality that Cancel always brought to things, and the design integrity, and the fact that he got the rights to do those York copies.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, when you went to Wessex, I went, what? And so I'm glad you told us this, because you can imagine how, and of course, I'm on a couple of tuba community websites, and I'm always leading people your way when it comes to the horns. And now it just makes a lot more sense to know the one horn thing. It's really nice, because I was curious why, about the BAC thing and how all that happened, and
they've got all the mandrels. Right now, they're just making trumpets and trombones. Maybe a euphonium is in the works. We'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that they make use of what they've got, because there's a lot of history from the Cancel factory there at BAC, and they're good folks at BAC. I expect with their talents, they could do some really neat things.
Where can people, if they want to hear Howard Miyata on a recording?
Oh boy. Where
can they hear your music?
The best place to hear it is SF Ray Ann at what's her? She does sfrayann.com, and she posts on YouTube. And everything I've ever done at any festival is recorded by SF Ray Ann Berry, who does those wonderful things, and even me playing tuba stuff as well. Matter of fact, there's one that she has that I'm really happy with. I got to be in an all-star group with Scott Anthony in Monterey, and I'm playing the Leviathan. So,
by the way, Scott's going to be coming on to do an interview also.
Oh, good. Oh, I love playing next to Scott. He's
good. Oh, that Leviathan looks like a handful.
It's big, but it weighs in at 27 pounds, which isn't bad.
No.
Considering a Conn or a Martin recording bass weighs in at 31. So, if you're used to an old recording bass, these 6/4 horns are pretty easy to handle. And if you want to spend more and get the lightweight, the hand hammered versions, that sheds off another 8 pounds.
Wow. Well, thank you, Howard. Give that website, give that YouTube site one more plug, and maybe spell it for the people.
SF Ray Ann, the Ray Ann part is RAEANN. I think at the end, .com, or just type in SF Ray Ann on your YouTube search, and you'll get it right away.
Great. And as it is here, we are Trad Jazz Today, and make sure to subscribe so you can hear all of these interviews. They're all long. I try not to put time limits on anybody, and so they're all about an hour or so. And just want to let people say what they have to say and archive some of these incredible personalities and musicians. So thank you, Howard.
Thank you so much. It's been a real treat.
Yeah, I hope we get a chance to be on the same stage again soon.
Likewise.
All right, take care.
Take care, my friend.
Thank you all for watching Trad Jazz Today with Dan Zeilinger. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Videos come out every Wednesday and Friday.